In this video, I'm going to talk about when and how I converted to Islam and when did I become a Muslim. I know. Most of you who know me, you're gonna say, "What is she talking about? She was always a born Muslim." Yes, I was. मैं एक नस्लन मुसलमान थी जो कि मुसलमान घराने में पैदा हुई, and that too because my parents said they're Muslims and I said I'm a Muslim, and their parents said they were Muslims, so they said they're Muslims. We took our shahada. कारी साहब घर आए, हमने कुरान पढ़ा दिया और हमने नमाज पढ़ना सीख ली, and that's it, boom, you're Muslim. I knew nothing about Islam. I didn't even know what it meant to be a Muslim. And up until I was 32 years old, it was a long, long time where I was so far away from my deen. Even the basics that most people do, I never even took care of that part. And then one day, it was the month of Muharram, the first 10 days of Muharram. And those of you who don't know what Muharram is, it's a lunar year, the first month of lunar year. And some significant events took place in that month. And Muslims really have lots of regard and respect for the month of Muharram. And my husband, he particularly, I mean, we're not Shia, for those who know what I'm talking about, but my husband particularly is very very careful in the first 10 days of Muharram. And I was sitting there and I was trying to watch a song on TV, and he said, "Sharam karo, Muharram ke pehle 10 din hai." And I said, and then he changed the channel and he put something on, and some of the Shia scholar or Shia Zakir was actually speaking about the Shahada of Imam Hussein and his family, who were martyred in Karbala. And though I had no interest in it, but I just sat there and watched with him just to give him company. And as I was listening to the story, it just kind of melted my heart. And I had tears coming down my eyes. And I kept watching it for the first 10 days. And then the 10th day, after the Ashura was over, and I actually had tears in my eyes and I was crying, and I said to my husband, "I want to say something. I know you're going to make fun of me, but I'm going to say it anyway." He said, "What?" I said, "I want to become a good Muslim, but I don't know where to start." And he didn't make fun of me, thank God. He looked at me and he said, "You should start studying the Quran with translation, and then study the hadith of the Prophet, and then read some history, and then take it from there, and then God will open the path for you to become a better Muslim." And that's exactly what I did. Next morning, I woke up, I went to work, I came back, I made my wudu, I read my salah, and I picked up the Quran and I started reading it with Urdu translation. And I kept reading and reading, and then it took me 6 months, 7 months, something like that, and मैंने 28 सिपारे कुरान के तर्जमे के साथ, उर्दू तर्जमे के साथ पढ़ लिए. I read it in Urdu translation up to 28 siparas. And I had no idea what Quran said. And the reason was I was so far away from my deen, and I had never studied anything about my deen, that it just wasn't making any sense to me. I didn't understand what Quran was saying. It was very complicated for me. I had zero knowledge and zero background information for anything. So after the 28th Sipara, I just closed the Quran and I stopped reading the translation. I would just open up Quran every day and I would just recite the Arabic part. I would kiss the book and I'll put it up on the shelf, just like a common Muslim would do. But I didn't give up. The YouTube was very new at the time, and I started listening to some YouTube channels, the very basics of our deen. And I learned how to make wudu. I listened to, I mean, of course I knew how to make wudu, but I just wanted to start everything from scratch and fresh. And I learned how to give ghusl to a dead person, how to take ghusl when we as a human being is required to take ghusl. And then that was the first time I heard the word Dajjal. My Christian friends who know, we're talking about Antichrist. I didn't even know there was such a thing as Dajjal. Like, I had no knowledge of it. And then I learned about that, and I just became very obsessed with this topic, and I started watching more and more videos about Dajjal. And then I started watching about the life of Barzakh. I had no idea what that was. I had never even heard of that term before. So then I realized what the Barzakh was. It's a limbo where the dead persons go from when they die. The Christians and Jews who have the Abrahamic faith, they probably understand what I'm talking about. So when we die, our soul is in between a place that's called barzakh. And then I learned the concept of what barzakh is and how where the good souls are kept and where the bad souls are kept and all that stuff. And I kept watching videos after video after video. And then I started going to the library and pick up some very basic Islamic books, and I started reading those. A year went by like this, and I would watch lots of programs on the TV. And then Ramadan started, and during Ramadan, there was a Geo TV. It's a Pakistani TV channel. They had a program called Alim Online, where they will have the religious scholars sit and answer people's everyday questions regarding the month of Ramadan, the issues of the charity that we give as a Muslim, that we have to, it's mandatory for us. और वो सारे मैं उनके देख रही थी. And then I came across this one guy, and he was very interesting. And उसके जो होते थे, उसका नाम था सैयद कुतुब. तो वो लोग उससे पूछते थे कि मेरा ये नाम है और आप मुझे बताएं कि मैं इस बंदे के साथ बिजनेस पार्टनरशिप करना चाहता हूँ, would it be a good combination? And he would say yes, it will be a wonderful combination, इस नाम का बंदा आपके साथ बहुत चलेगा, etc etc. And I was very interested to know, like, how does he have this knowledge that you give them your name and then he tells you if your life is going to be in a certain way. I had never believed in that stuff. And then my husband even said it seems like he knows something. And then one day, and I started listening to him. He was an engineer by profession. He was okay, I guess, but I wasn't convinced. As they say, more and more people you listen to, everyone was giving their own version of Islam, and I was so confused. So I wanted to find one teacher who will lead me to the right direction and who will help me become a better Muslim. And then while I was listening to him, one day he mentioned his teacher, and he said, yeah, I was going somewhere with my teacher, and I said to him, what book should I read? And he said, even if you pick up that piece of newspaper from that trash, you'll learn something from it, which means, never think you have too much knowledge that now you don't even know which book to read. And then he said, when I say my teacher, I mean, and then he said the name of his teacher. And now I was curious, and I searched up his teacher's name, and it's an old man, clean shave, and sitting there, and he mostly delivers lectures in Urdu language, and he speaks very literal Urdu, like as if you're reading some kind of Urdu literature. जैसे आप उर्दू अदब पढ़ रहे हैं, बड़ी मुश्किल उर्दू जो होती है वो उसमें वो अपनी speeches करते हैं. And his name is Professor Ahmed Rafiq Akhtar. He lives in Gujar Khan in Pakistan near Islamabad. And I didn't know. I started listening to him. I was very bored because his Urdu was very difficult for me to understand. I thought I was very good at Urdu, which I probably was, but because I was so far away from Urdu language for a long, long time that I was out of practice. But I didn't give up. I kept listening to him and kept listening to him and kept listening to him. And then, as they say, when you're looking for God, God will take you to the right place and right people. And he did, alhamdulillah. And I reached the right person. This man, he claims to be a teacher. He calls himself a teacher. But I think he's a Sufi scholar of the modern era of Islam. He has a depth knowledge of every subject that you talk to him, and he will give you a very satisfying answer. He doesn't look like a mullah, doesn't have a beard, doesn't have his pants above his ankle, doesn't have a miswak in his pocket. He's very modern, progressive Muslim man. He's pretty old, and I started listening to him, and boy, oh boy, I was addicted to him. And alhamdulillah, I consider him to be my spiritual and my religious teacher. He taught me so much about Islam, about Allah and God and the mercy of God and the life after death and the heavens and hell and you name it, every subject in Islam that you can speak of. I started listening to his lectures all day long, and I just kept absorbing that knowledge from him that he had on YouTube. And then I picked up the Quran again and I started reading it the second time with the translation. and I read throughout the Quran the second time, alhamdulillah, with the translation. I understand very few verses, just a little bit. I still couldn't get it. I guess I didn't have enough knowledge, but I was getting better. My speed was getting better in reading Arabic language. I was able to comprehend some of the verses in the Quran, but it wasn't like that I can claim, oh my God, I understand what Allah is saying. I couldn't understand what Allah was saying. Then I kept listening and listening, not just him. Then I listened to Zakir Naik, I listened to Numan Ali Khan, I listened to Yasir Qadi, I listened to Ghamidi Sahab. Then I listened to, so all those scholars that I listened to, I would get glimpse of lights from them, but I never felt this person is close to Allah, or Allah knows him, or he knows his Rabb. Professor Saab was the only person who gave me that feeling and that security. And every time I had a controversial issue where I couldn't get the answer, or I couldn't get satisfied on the answer, I would always search up that question, and I would type in by Professor Ahmed Rafiq Akhtar on YouTube, and something will pop up, and I will listen to his opinion, and it would just make me happy that, okay, good, I think whatever he's saying is making more sense to me. And I have been following him. I'm 45 years old now. It's been about 13 years since I started my journey to get to know God, get to know my faith, get to know my religion, understand my religion. And of course, it's a never-ending journey. It will never end. And that's how I became a practicing Muslim. And I say that's when I converted to Islam. And the reason why I say I became Muslim, because the people who live in Indian subcontinent region, we know what Islam means in that part of the world. You are born in a Muslim family, your parents told you that you're Muslim, you read Quran, just the Arabic, never understand what it's telling you. You do 5 prayers a day, if you're lucky and your family is practicing Muslim, and that's it, you're a Muslim, alhamdulillah. But none of us know what Allah wants from us. What does it mean to be a Muslim? What does it mean to be a practicing Muslim? Praying 5 times a day and fasting in the Ramadan is not Islam whatsoever. Of course, it's the very basic spiritual part of Islam, but Islam is gives us a complete manual of our life, how we should live, how we should trade, how we should react in our or act in our business environment, in our work environment. How do we treat our spouses? How we treat our children? How do we live in a community? How do we help others? How we show mercy? How we stand up against aggression and oppression? How we take care of the ones in need? There is so much more to learn in Islam, and nobody ever teaches that. And then the best thing that I learned from Professor Ahmed Rafiq Akhtar when I became a true Muslim was how merciful our God is. When I was young, and all the time when I listened to any of the Maulvis in the near masajids, they would always talk about how there is a torment of graveyard, how there is going to be trouble in hell, and they always gave us the impression, Billah, like Allah is sitting there like an just like a villain who's just ready to uh, punish us all the time, and he has no mercy whatsoever. And when I listened to Professor Saab, it gave me the feeling of this safety and protection and feeling of peace that Allah is the most merciful out there. He loves me more than if I had 70 mothers on this planet Earth, he loves me more than that. 70 is obviously just a number to emphasize the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Obviously, his mercy is just so big that we can't even measure it in numbers and quantities. And that was the best feeling that I got once I converted to Islam. So many things that I always used to be so scared of, that fear went away. And that's what leads people to do the wrong thing, because you commit a sin and you say, well, I'm going to go to hellfire anyway, so why even bother doing anything right? But Professor Saab, and my understanding that I got from him was that you make a mistake, you make tawbah, you ask for forgiveness, start your new life. Allah's mercy will forgive you. And that was the best feeling that I got from Islam. So that was my story of becoming a Muslim and converting to Islam. I will continue the story further. I will tell a little bit about my journey how many teachers have inspired me in this whole process. How am I understanding the book of Allah now? How do I practice Deen inside my house? And how much has it changed me as a human being? And Alhamdulillah for that. I hope you guys like this video. If you have a story of your own, please share it with me. Please give my video a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And I appreciate all your support and help. Until next time, Allah Hafiz.